Welcome back to Blerd on the Street. We'd like to thank all our listeners who tune in, but especially Phaedra220 and NPR Girl, who left us reviews on Apple Podcasts. Leaving us a review increases our discoverability and helps new listeners to find us, so we can keep bringing you the great content that we have planned.
Hi, I'm Jillian. A matcha latte and my Nintendo Switch are never far from my reach. You can find me at jillian.corinne on Instagram.
Hi, my name is Jenna, and I think coffee, books, and makeup are life. You can follow me on Instagram at PhillyGirlJL or on TikTok at PhillyGirlJLH.
Hi, I'm Lily, and I run on flat whites and raspberry scones. You can find me on Twitter at AliseOnLife. That's ALISEONLIFE. Today, we're talking about Loki, Episode 2. So beware, there are spoilers if you haven't had a chance to check out the series yet. As always, listener discretion is advised, and we'll always try to put any CWs in the show notes.
So we open up with there's a few hunters that pop into a Renaissance fair in, I believe, Wisconsin in 1985. And I'd like to point out this is where we get our first Karen of the episode. This random lady comes out and is like at her booth and looks at the hunters like, guys, you're not dressed for this. Yeah, a Renaissance fair Rachel. We're getting a hashtag together.
It's also a Eurocentric for her to say, like, hey, you have the wrong costume.
And there's like mostly people of color in the hunter party. I know the leader, C20, I believe she's a person of color. So, got my eye on you, lady.
Person who will never be seen again in any other episode. Loki and Mobius, when they have that conversation in the break room, there's some existential stuff going on about what is and isn't real.
Right, and then whose origin story sounds more ridiculous than the other?
Yes, exactly. So Mobius' story is that he was created by the timekeepers, the supreme godlike beings, in order to be part of the TVA and preserve the sacred timeline. Loki's origin story is that he is an alien god with special powers, born of the frost giants, and adopted by Odin.
Yeah, it's interesting, the parallels between this, because arguably they're very similar, and for Loki to be so like unbelievable about Mobius's origin story is kind of funny, because he fully believes in his origin of being born from some otherworldly race.
Well, I thought it was because Loki, can actually trace back that he was a baby born from someone, and I had a childhood and that sort of thing, as opposed to like Mobius just being like, okay, here's Mobius, boop.
I mean, I didn't assume he was born like from a womb, but I also wasn't necessarily assuming that he just popped into existence as a full-grown man one day.
Okay.
I don't think I thought that deeply about it, but I did feel like Mobius thought that, yeah, I think I thought that they all believed that they were just as they are and
Right.
will continue to be as they are.
Right.
So not children, not young adults, no puberty, no adolescence, no college, none of that. They are just fully grown and come into being strictly for the purposes of preserving the timeline.
Right.
So, just to go into that a little more, you assume that they were like fully into being with all of the knowledge that they needed. Like, so the hunters are very well trained.
Right.
Was your assumption that that's how they always knew that? Or, because to me, I kind of assumed that, like I said, I'm not really assuming they had a childhood, but just that they were, I guess, younger or maybe less knowledgeable and had to be taught about what goes on with the TVA and how to be a productive member of the TVA, as opposed to them just knowing everything and fighting skills and all that kind of stuff automatically.
I mean, I guess, so there's a difference, I think, in what you're talking about and what I'm talking about. This isn't what I assumed. This isn't what I believed. I always thought the TVA was shady from the beginning. And I did actually think they were taking actual people, wiping them, and then reprogramming them. Like, that was sort of what I thought. When I talk about it, I'm saying what it seems as if Mobius and the other members of the TVA believe about themselves. In this episode, The Variant, Loki also sort of figures out the Variant's kind of plan in that how this variant is surviving and creating chaos without the timeline being disrupted. And I personally really like his like childlike glee and excitement over figuring this out when he comes to Mobius. Like, he's reporting to like his mom or a teacher, like, I figured it out. I know what's going on. I really liked that one where he's trying to convince Mobius, and Mobius is just like, and he's like, think about this. Think about how much I hate to be wrong.
Right.
And that's what gets Mobius moving. That's where Mobius is like, okay.
He's not wrong. He's got me there. He's got me there. Yeah, and then when they were testing it, I thought it was really funny how he connected with the goats in the cart. He's like, be free, my horned friends. And it's like, oh, yeah, his little crown has, like, horns kind of like a goat. Aww. Kindred spirits.
I guess part of Mobius's job is knowing about variants.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting how he seems to know a lot about Loki. And I was always wondering, like, how much contact he actually had with the other variants, that come through the TVA, and what exactly his job, so to speak, is beyond what he does with Loki.
Because in the first episode, somebody came to him and delivered the folder that said that they had apprehended this Loki, and he came to sit on his trial and was like, oh, I think I know what he's capable of, and then convinces the judge, Ravana, to let him use Loki as an asset. So And then I believe at one point it was either the first episode or it's this episode where he says, like, I've studied, like, I know all of what you've done, like, you've literally stabbed people in the back like 50 times. When
Right.
I think Loki, oh yeah, because they were thinking about, like, oh, I'm not taking you out in the field, like, what if you stab me in the back? And Loki's like, I would never stab someone in the back. That's such a boring form of betrayal. It's like, I've studied you. You've literally stabbed someone in the back 50 times. Like, well, I wouldn't do it again.
Right. Like with Loki, I guess, was always concerned with destruction. He wanted to be a god, but it never really occurred to him to actually, instead of kill everyone, to like become a leader to them, not just a
Right.
like figurehead up in the sky or wherever,
Right, because that's what he was built for, apparently.
Right.
But he was also built to fail in that. So I guess it's a matter of, okay, he didn't really think that through. Like, how would I actually lead people? He doesn't always have an answer. He's just like, oh, I'm just going to order them around because it'll be easy for them to follow just somebody like a shepherd, I guess, taking lambs around. So I thought that's very interesting. A little bit existential crisis right there.
I mean, I think Loki fully believes in the idea that it's better for people to fear you and maybe easier to get people to fear you than to love you, right? Because then if they love you, you have to actually live up to something.
Right. But then it's like, well, what is he going to do with those people? Like, what is he going to order them to do? I mean, in Thor Ragnarok, he was just kind of like sitting around as Odin, putting on plays, and where Loki looks like a tragic hero. And what's the no pun intended, but what's the end game here?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like Loki was, I don't know, like, not to be mean, but he was kind of lazy in his thoughts of like what he wanted to do. He wanted to be this god where people looked up to him and they were afraid of him, and he could just, sit on some chaise lounge and have people serve him, as opposed to actually ruling them and maybe creating or making another society,
Well, it? Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say that also, I don't know how much I really ever, like, even in the comics and in the MCU, saw Loki as being a conqueror. Like, he's the god of mischief. He was trying to create chaos.
In the first Thor, where we first meet Loki, it seemed kind of like he was jealous of Thor being the oldest, so he would automatically get a seat on the throne. And Loki wanted, because he thought that he was, he probably is smarter than Thor and would do a better job than Thor. And it just seemed like he always wanted maybe Odin's attention. Yeah, it's a little bit confusing, his motivation, because he is the god of mischief. So creating chaos and being hedonistic is just, the MO.
Also, sometimes I feel like if you think about it in a competition, there are some people who know that they're never going to win. So instead of just losing gracefully, they do everything that they can to sabotage who will be the winner. And that really feels like Loki's MO more than anything, more than wanting to win. It was just that he wanted Thor to lose.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. The way he kind of ruined Mobius's lunch by using it as a bottle.
Yeah. It's ridiculous because it didn't actually show anything. Like when people like try to do stuff with like salt and sugar and
I thought I got it after watching it 3 times. I was like, I kind of see what he's saying, because like the salt. Okay, so he puts the salt and the pepper in the salad to show chaos, because obviously, like, a lot of people don't put salt and pepper in salad, but, like, it's just chaos being poured onto the world.
Let's go back to this, Jilly.
Oh, sorry.
A lot of people don't put salt and pepper on salads.
I put pepper, but I've never heard of salt on a salad. I made an assumption. That's my bad.
What I was actually trying to say was that I didn't actually think, I didn't take it like literally that putting salt and pepper on salads was creating chaos. I thought he was just using them as an example. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay. Well, I saw the salad as the world.
Right.
Or maybe the timeline. And then you're putting the salt and pepper on, and that is the chaos that's coming down onto the timeline. But the apocalypse was the juice.
Something that shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Right.
So the juice was the apocalypse coming. So then the juice dissolves the salt and pepper. So that whatever is left is just, the time part of that timeline is destroyed by the apocalypse, but those apocalypses are supposed to happen. But they dissolve all the chaos, which was the salt and pepper. So nothing was wrong.
Like, I got what he was trying to do in explaining it, but I wasn't like literally taking those things as actual.
Oh,
if you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought he was just using what was available on the table.
Right. But, so this leads them into doing a bit of recon on apocalypses and deciding to go to this Rock's Cart superstore.
Can we also talk about the graphics of that scene? How, like, we know that there's, like, a giant hurricane, but, like, it starts off on this, like, beautiful image of, like, this idyllic Roxxon village, or I think it was called a corporate town, but it was, like, really nice, idyllic, green grass, big trees, lots of houses in neat little rows, and then all of a sudden the music goes bomb, bomb, and like a giant thing just comes and destroys that, and you find out it's a billboard, and it just like completely destroys it. And I was like, that is a beautiful bit of graphics or special effects there. I thought that was so cool. And then did you notice when they were entering the Rock's Cart store that so it's thundering and lightning, and Loki's like looking up at the sky as if he could see Thor might be there.
He's sort of been conditioned to like, when you hear thunder,
I'm not a fan of what follows.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like he kind of almost thought maybe Thor would show up just because it was thundering.
Yeah.
Can we take a moment, just a real quick moment? Roxxon as a company is actually...
It's part of the Marvel universe.
Yes. It's kind of important in the Marvel universe. But not just in the MCU, but I believe in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And what was that? The show, it was really short-lived.
Cloak and Dagger.
I believe that one of their parents.
I think so. I think so. And then I think it's a building that Peggy went into in Agent Carter was called Rox Corp or something like that, or Roxxon, something like that. Like, I don't know if it was like she went in there and that's where the phone company front is for the organization she works for before S.H.I.E.L.D.
The SSR.
The SSR, that's right. Mm-hmm.
They are here. There's a very powerful hurricane happening, and this is the end of the world for these people. These are humans that are sheltered in this Rock's Cart store.
Yeah, it's like a big box superstore.
Yeah.
Like your Walmarts or Target or Costco or something.
Right. The TVA shows up with
right outside. You couldn't wait until they got inside but then we got a little quip about him drying himself with his magic. Right. And Hunter B-15, who's played by Wonmi Masako, is like, what? the hell did you just do? It's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna walk around wet like you heathens. Okay.
I actually saw that as Loki just testing to make sure he could use his powers again.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
There's kind of a lot in this.
Right. They're asking if they're FEMA because they look kind of official. I mean, they're all in uniforms. Right. So I think they just really wanted help.
Right. So they see these people as help, and we know from the beginning that they're not going to do anything. This is an apocalypse, and they have no plan of stopping it. They just want to find the variant.
I mean, they sort of look military-like, so maybe.
They do, yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, they could have called in the National Guard to help out. I don't know.
That's true. Right. Yeah. I think it's interesting that FEMA still exists in this future time.
Yeah. Well, it's only 2050, I think. That wasn't terribly far off.
One of the significant events that happens is that Hunter C20 is enchanted by Sylvie.
Right, who we don't know is Sylvie yet, but we know now it's another Loki, and they're using I think it's like
kind
a
of
green
mind magic.
I was thinking I think we can tell it's another Loki because I mean as viewers we're looking out for it, but then the enchantment is like green, which is Loki's signature color.
Right. It's interesting how alike it looks to the Scarlet Witch's powers.
It does,
but hers is red.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what's funny is that when he said this variant we're looking for is you, I mean they did say variant, but I wasn't actually thinking that it was a different person. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But you know, in the beginning,
while they're gonna go find C20,
Mobius was talking to Loki, and he was saying how we've caught every Loki that's become a variant. Right. Like you're nobody special. C20 gets enchanted. We see the green powers, and C20 is sort of locked inside of herself. She's not really responding to the outside.
She's repeating the same phrase over and over again. It was real, it was real, it was real. And like they're asking her, what was real? Like, what are you talking about? And she just can't articulate that to the Mobius and the other hunters that are with him.
Right.
When they find her, yeah.
We're saying she, but the hunters have been so depersonalized because they're just numbers that we don't really even know.
Right.
We don't really discuss that, which I find is interesting.
Actually, I remember seeing this on, somebody did a still on Loki's file, or like his sheet in his file on Instagram. It did say fluid.
Right. That was something that a lot of people were talking about, where they were like, Loki's confirmed gender fluid. Yay.
Okay.
Marvel's not dodging away from this.
So C20's enchanted, out of the picture for the moment, but they are still looking for the variant in this huge big box store rocks cart.
We should say Mobius and a couple other hunters separated from Hunter B-15 and Loki. So they're in two separate groups.
Right. And it should also be mentioned that like when we say big box store analogous to like Costco or Walmart, it's still even bigger than that. They had like whole sections.
Well, this whole town was built around this corporation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this store that they're in is humongous, and the episode kind of shows them creeping around different parts of the store. I did think it was nice that they did sort of orient you, because you would sometimes see the signs like of the aisles that they were
signs,
yeah.
But anyway, that's more just to set the scene than anything else.
And then the first iteration of the variant or enchanted a young African-American man, and he's like, what are you guys doing here? I'm shopping. They're like, you're shopping in this weather? And he's like, yeah, it's a hurricane blowout sale. So that also kind of is a commentary on like American consumerism and a capitalist society. I thought was just like, this joke has layers. Yeah.
This variant like switches bodies really easily and quickly too.
By touch. Yeah.
Right. So this variant is really used to, this is sort of, we get this look at this variant has been on the run and honing their powers for like a really long time, that they're able to do this so easily.
Right.
Or maybe that's a feature of a Loki, because Loki, like our MCU Loki, never really seemed like he struggled that much to use his powers either, right? Like there was never a time when he just couldn't.
He only showed the powers he wanted people to see, or that he had to use in front of other people. But I always assumed he was a lot stronger and could do a lot more than we were actually, seeing on the screen.
In the Avenger movies, in the MCU, Loki is posed as the villain, right? So the villain always has to be beaten. So his powers can't be so all-consuming and amazing, because he has to be weaker than the heroes. So I think that is sort of what Jillian, what you were pointing out, he was always upstaged by the Avengers and the other things. And here they're saying, no, Loki really does have some power. We're showing it.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the times with Loki, sort of going back to not him being lazy, but sort of doing the minimum, like he just wasn't using the most of his powers sometimes because he didn't have to.
This is actually Loki focus. We're actually going to show like the full scope of his actual capabilities.
So we're kind of at the end of the episode here, and the variant that they're chasing shows up using these other people's bodies as proxy, but then Loki challenges this variant, and as a Loki is wont to do, the variant could not resist actually showing up as themselves in their own body because of this challenge.
Right.
And then up until that point, we don't even know what this variant looks like. But then we see them as Sylvie.
A woman can be a Loki.
Yeah. Right.
And
she was like also opposite with him in her costuming. Like he was wearing a suit, like a civilian style, and she was dressed in like, I guess, like Asgardian leather and a cloak. And she was also blonde and he has black hair. So it was like totally polar opposites in the look. Yeah.
Right. And so the episode ends with Loki having to make a decision, as Loki has to do in a lot of these situations. And Sylvie had created a portal, and in the background you see Mobius and the rest of the hunters running towards Loki. I think we all know Loki chose to follow Sylvie.
I think that what he was really deciding in his head was, this is my chance to find out who this Loki is, and not necessarily this is my chance to escape the TVA. But yeah, that is how the episode ends.
Cue credits.
Thanks for listening to Blerd on the Street.